Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and members of the Budget Committee. I will call the Budget, Finance, and Investment Committee to order, and we have June the 9th minutes to approve.
Move to approve.
Commissioner Jernigan, thank you. Seconded by Commissioner Jordan. Any additions or corrections? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. No one. That motion carries. The first item on our agenda is to review the public hearing, and we did not have anyone to speak. Do any of the members of the Budget Committee want to make any comments? Okay, let's move quickly because we have quite a bit of work to do tonight, and the Finance Director has prepared a packet for us, so let's follow that packet. And as we review the 2011-2012 budget, if I hear no objection from you gentlemen, as we make our motions today, we'll just do the same procedure that we did during the budget process, and we will do voice vote. Okay, Mrs. Nolan.
Okay, real quickly to get. No.
You can sit up here with us if you want to.
Yes. Okay, I don't have any changes in Fund 118, which was the ambulance fund, or Industrial Economic Development 119. 122 was Drug Control Fund. You don't have these, I'm just telling you.
Okay.
We don't have any changes. No changes to the Highway Department, Centralized Cafeteria, or Education Capital Projects. So no changes to those. So we're going to start with 116. There's really no change to the total revenue or to the appropriations. It's page 1. But there was some movement in employees from one budget function to another at the time we prepared the mayor's recommendation till today. There's an employee that moved out of the convenience center budget into the landfill for a time that had quite a bit of time with the county, so he would have gotten about 225 in longevity. The longevity is incorrect from where they are now. So it's just a I know I have a random dollar, but I've got an increase of about $275 in the convenience center and a decrease in the landfill. And I'll fix that dollar. But so it's just the bottom line of those two functions will change.
So the motion would be to make the change as it reflects the longevity.
So moved.
Commissioner P., thank you. And seconded by Commissioner Jernigan. Any discussion or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. That motion carries.
If you flip to page 4.
Can we ask a question about, just general about the solid waste fund and all? Because we're doing the recycling different than we had in the past. We don't, who was it, Alliance or whoever used to cart it. And are we making money on that now, or?
Yes, and yes, and yes.
Okay.
We've almost collected $380-something thousand in revenue this year. I think heretofore, we might have been getting not even 100,000.
Yeah, but but then with what we had to pay them, we came out in the hole.
Right.
Is that not correct?
Oh, yeah, we have made a major,
okay.
if you consider that as well.
And that goes back into the ending fund balance for solid waste?
I'm sorry?
That goes back into ending
Yes.
fund balance for solid waste?
Yes,
Okay.
and those were some of the amendments that we had last meeting, adjusting those revenues.
Okay.
Okay, if y'all ready to move on to page 4. Fund 121 is a special purpose fund. This is the one that we don't estimate anticipated revenue. We only budget what monies we have available and on hand. So in this column, the 2010-2011 fiscal year and current budget, you have a column of what was budgeted, what was spent, and what is available. There was 1,833 that they received that came today. So just moving across, the budget for 2011-2012 is $20,087. No budgeted revenue. Estimating beginning fund balance, I guess it's not assigned, it's restricted, of $20,100, and it will just show that the ending will be $13.
A motion for the special purpose fund changes.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Sandlin, second by Commissioner Sheffield.
This is that asset forfeiture fund.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, that motion carries. Okay, now, general purpose school fund, page 5.
There's a increase in revenue and offsetting increase in part-time and benefits of $16,234, and that is for their fingerprinting. And Jeff, you might want to explain that.
The TBI doesn't bid for that. We have to use whoever they award the contract to. In the previous contractor hired 2 employees. We gave space in the adult ed teacher center building, maintenance building. The new bidder is going to pay us $3 per successful print. We hire the 2 part-time people. So it should, we might even make $1,000, $2,000 on it.
Who all are you fingerprinting?
All of our new employees, and otherwise they'd have to go to Nashville. And then other agencies whose employees have to be fingerprinted can be sent there too, and we would get that $3 for their employees too, which is the way it's been functioning under the previous contractor.
So this changes their total revenue to $260,439,505, and appropriations $266,944.
So moved on the change.
I'll second that, but I've got one more question. Why are we required to fingerprint these people, or why are we going to those extremes? Or are you talking about people that are handling money, or
No,
what?
we have been required for 8 to 10 years to do background checks, and it kind of evolved to going with the
And required by who, the state or the federal government, or
State.
both? So there's another unfunded mandate of how many, $16,234?
Well, in our annual budget, we have 30 to 50,000 a year we've been spending on that.
But then churches and everything do that now. I mean, they fingerprint background checks and all this.
Well, I can understand that if people are handling money or in security positions. I'm curious to see what
Working with
positions,
children.
Everyone.
Well,
If
this-
I
there you
were a
go.
new employee.
That's the reason.
That explained it for me, so.
Yeah.
all right. So background checks for possible sex offenders. All right.
Call the roll, please. Oh, excuse me. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, that motion carries. Okay, page 6, building
Okay, now we're going to begin.
codes.
We're going to begin talking about the general fund. And so you, I believe we'll probably need motions on the first 3, but then I'd like for y'all to just listen after that. On the inspection regulation, which is building codes, they had initially 4 individuals that were going to be certified, and we had 4,000 in salary supplements to take care of the certifications, but after we had presented, David Jones said there's 5, so we are making an adjustment to account for that 5th person. The increase from what we previously reported was $1,200. So what we are recommending is $749,024 for inspection and regulation.
So moved.
Commissioner Jordan, seconded by Commissioner Jernigan. Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Page 7, disaster relief. This is the remaining funds that were unspent for the Homeland Security, the 2008, 2009, 2010. The estimate is $727,247 that will roll from the current budget into next year's budget. You'll see that in the last line, other equipment. We've put that in there, and then we will have offsetting revenue of $727,247. So that's going in both lines.
Second.
Commissioner Jernigan, seconded by Commissioner Sandlin.
Do we have any stipulation, we have so long to spend this before we have to give it back?
Yeah.
Yes.
And
You said 09, 010, so it's been rolling some
Mhm.
already. but-
we had to spend all the 08, and we just issued all of those purchase orders this month. So the 08 would have
The 08
dropped
should be
off. We did spend all
Oh,
of
it's
it.
gone, yeah.
And so
09,
this
we've
is
got
9 and
another
10.
year to
Yeah.
get it done. I know the
I
clock's
said
ticking,
all
you
eight.
don't spend it, you
19.
gotta give it back.
Right, or you just don't get it.
Or if you say,
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Okay. Then on the county fire department, this is the one that Larry Farley spoke to when he was here, and we said that we would adjust his budget. And it was a SAFER grant that I think Rutherford Volunteer got while they were a volunteer, and they rolled it into the county. So there is an increase to the county fire department of $52,318, offsetting revenue $49,703. So the $2,600 difference or thereabout is our match.
So moved.
Um,
Or second.
Okay, Commissioner Jernigan, seconded by Commissioner Sandler. Call the, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, these next couple ones, the bottom line didn't change, but it's just more of a information. I redid where all the people are and had the payroll as current as last Friday. But I do have a change in 103 assistants and this last one, detectives, 107. So it's just, and there's no increase, I just moved some money from one account to the other.
Okay, so that's FYI
This
for
is
the Sheriff's
FYI.
Department and the
So
jail.
it did change the bottom line number, and on page 10, if you see it real big, 106, it used to say 189, I'm changing other salaries and wages from, that money is to account for that in, is that right? Is it 160 guards? It's gonna be guards. Might be 160.
I think 106 is deputy.
Oh, here,
I think.
oh, 106 is deputy, it's 160. Let me check real quick.
Yeah, 106 right here is deputy.
106, then it's 160.
Yeah.
I was dyslexic.
So the only thing we're changing there,
Is the account
no
number.
motion there, that's just
601.
Wait a
FYI.
minute, if I can go, if I
Could
can
be.
get to
You'd be
the,
dyslexic.
Yeah.
hold on, I'll
Those
get
decimal
the
points on our
check.
finance director, you know.
At 160. It's 160.
Okay. But no motion necessary there.
All right. Okay. So if you're with me, we're on page 11. And these are the adjustments. I'll put the little arrows to show, now after the public hearing, that was before the arrows, what we went in with the public hearing. And then after the changes that we've made for the Homeland Security grants and the fire grants, our revenue is at $68,662,702. Then the appropriations with the building codes, Homeland Security and fire grants brings our final total to $72,701,049. With a net total change of fund balance of $4,038,347. The change to a restricted fund balance to litigation tax, $150. That offsets in the jail budget $150,000 for building improvements. So the change to unassigned fund balance is $3,888,347. Unassigned fund balance at 15.2. This would end our unassigned fund balance is $11,311,653. Our fund balance requirement is $10,905,000. So on this budgetary basis, you've only got $400,000 leeway between what we're estimated ending and what our balance is. Some people look at the fund balance and go, oh, you got $11 million, and I say, no, I only have the difference. Anything above $10,905,000 is what we have available because of the policy. Why is that important? Flip to page 12, please. This is the current year. We anticipated a reduction of the unassigned fund balance of $1.4 million, almost 1.7. You can see all the action that we've done throughout the entire year. We've gone back into fund balance for an additional $1.1 million.
Above and beyond the 1.4?
Yes,
Hmm.
yes,
We only have 400,000 to play with this year,
for next year,
upcoming year.
upcoming year.
Upcoming. That's why she's pointing this
Yeah.
out to you carefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This will, she has a,
I thought usually we came
has
in
a
a little
purpose in
better than
mind here.
projections, but we've been dipping back in there a little bit for,
Well, I mean, it's just kind of what happens through the
Yeah.
year. when they say, why do you have the fund balance? Well, that's for all these unplanned things, these things that we weren't aware of at the time that we were preparing the budget. Okay?
Some of these that are still here, we're living with, like the judgments, we have,
Well,
you know,
we've
we
taken
put
care of
more
that. We just
into
did
it
that.
this year, but coming year, but.
Well, we put in every month, and you bring that up, and the mayor did say, well, hopefully next year on summer, we've met our max, so we should be getting money back after what we've spent, so.
We do have one that we're gonna get money back, $200,000 to $250,000 will be coming, and we don't have that in revenue, but we will get it.
Okay.
So I guess that's the point I wanted to bring to you, is how many times that we end up going into fund balance throughout the year. Okay.
Which puts us, what we believe is too close.
Yes.
To the 15% margin.
Yeah.
Right.
We need some more flexibility, and that's where she's taking us in this discussion, I believe.
So, let's move on to, no motions necessary, just let's move into debt service and see what's going on there. If you look on page 13, I am revising the amount that, the estimate for a future borrowing into next year. I did have 1.8 million in this line. And I had Sam run some scenarios. Now that we're, initially when we start doing the budget and the times that we were talking about how's fund balance and the debt service going to work with all these borrowings. And at the time, I was thinking, well, if we borrow in the spring, then we have full interest and principal payments the following year. We keep pushing this a little, so as we push it into fall, then we really just have an interest payment in the spring. Okay, you with me? So that's one of the reasons why I can reduce that 1.8 down to 870,000. On page 14, this is the, just an estimate of a form of if we were to borrow $50 million with a net interest cost of 3.48, and that first year, you see it 864,637. On page 15 is an estimate if it's at 4%, a true interest cost at 4%, what would it be? 883 would be that first year. Now, if you look at the two schedules, you know, what's the effect between a 3.4 and a 4? It's just about 20,000 in that first year, but then in all the years after that, you're trying to level those principal and interest
Bringing
payments.
all up.
It's a couple $100,000. Okay.
The total over the years is
Almost
4 million.
Right, which there's a difference in,
Yeah.
and so I go back to when we were talking and had all those scenarios, I was using 4.75. So I was even giving you a much larger debt service requirement for the new debt.
And what's the rate on page 15, 4%?
If you look down at where it says true interest cost, the TIC.
3.4. No, that's net.
Yeah, well,
4.0.
wait, if you're on page 14, it was 348 and then 342 on a TIC. And on page 15, there's just a,
Page 15 is 4.0 true interest cost.
Of course, we're a victim of the market.
We're a
when we
victim
get
of
to-
circumstances.
It could be up a little bit or down a little bit.
right, okay.
Today, it would be 4.0 and less
But we're not talking about going to market
until
until,
a few months, maybe.
Well, a few more months. You know, hopefully,
should make significant changes in
Not
that
too
amount of
much.
time.
within 3 months, you know, I guess you just kind of,
So we may not get to 3.4 when we get something more nearly 4, but the trend is still down just a tick on the bonds.
okay. So if you go to page 16, now 2 things I've changed here from what you've seen is I've estimated the whole 50 million in borrowing. Under projected fund balance, I've changed that. That's about $800,000 better than what it was when we were looking at it. Of course, now we're further down the road and we see what additional revenues that we have there, so I've increased that. And then you could, under that 50 million, that first page on that 14 is just represented under that 50 million high school and road total projects. So going across, we would show that we would be using, under the first arrow, 932,000 of fund balance, and shows that we would be over a fund balance of 65% by 5.6 million. In the next year, 3.8, 1.3. So, you know, if you didn't do any borrowing, you left this like it is, you have flexibility, you would not run out of money. You could do 50 million and not a problem.
You would always have more than your 65% balance requirement.
Mm-hmm. But then, now that I'm concerned about the general fund, which is why I'm looking for some options. Page 17 is just the revenue that backs up page 17 backs up 16, which is the revenue, for those that like to trace numbers.
And she's used a conservative growth factor. If you'll notice that third column there in those first few years, 0.1%, 0.5%. So she hasn't projected any real growth in property tax increases, you might say. So she's taken a conservative approach there.
That 0.1 is the growth
This
from last year to this
Yeah.
year.
So heretofore, we've been able to project much larger growth factors, more like the 3 and 4% range.
So, you know, this is on down the road, that could come in better, or, you know, I'm on the mark. So again, it's just that, the estimate. So would you like to? talk about your
Okay.
part next? Okay, well, let me go on to page 18. Okay, so this, with the change on the appropriations to reduce the amount that I've got outstanding, I would reduce our revenue still at 60,549,000, expenditures at 61,487,000, beginning fund balance at 33,550,000. My estimated ending would be at 78.61%. So then the next line is, what would happen if we transferred 3 cents out of the debt service and go into the general fund? If we did that, then my fund balance would be about 74.5%. And that percentage is, if you look at under recommendation, there's a 61,487, which is the recommendation less the 20 million that's a refunding to get down that 41,487. That is the calculation for the fund balance percentage.
Okay, so
I was gonna say, okay.
this is her first scenario to suggest that we consider transferring 3 cents out of this debt service to general fund, which is $1.7 million. Still leaves us with 74.75% coverage, you might say, almost 10% above the 65% policy that you have in place. So we need to do that for at least two reasons. One, we've already talked a good bit about this general fund getting really a bit too close to 15%. It's just a few tenths of a point above 15%. So this would help us stabilize that and give us some more flexibility. And those of you that have noticed the purchasing committee's last meeting, we took bids on the fire rescue building, and they exceed our 3-year-old guesstimates by a substantial amount of money. They're at about Commissioner Schaefer was there. They're at about 3 bids are within $16,000 of each other, and they're at $1.2 million. We are.
And our estimate was?
500 3 years ago. We just picked a number, and it was not a good number to pick. I mean, we didn't properly plan for the future and properly plan for the cost and what needed to be included there.
What are our ambulance stations running right now? The last one we built,
About 180, about 180.
The actual ambulance station, yeah.
And you're saying
That
this
doesn't
building's
include
gonna be
property.
1.2?
Yeah, it's about
That was just like the
8,300
construction.
square feet. It's bigger. Those little ambulances buildings are just little residences. I mean, that's basically what they are, about
Well, they're
a
still
2-bedroom
about
residence.
3,000 feet, aren't they, with the bays and things?
I don't know if they're that much now. They may be. You may be correct. I'm not sure. Anyway, the building is something will last for a long, long time. It's going to give you enough capacity to put in place whatever you choose to put in place. It does have the ability for people to stay there. The volunteers can stay there and be there 24/7 as we move in that direction, as we get enough volunteers to do that. So it's not a huge building, it's not overly designed, it does have brick on it, but it's required by that piece of property that location is. That was a requirement of that, and a condition of that deed of transfer. It just has 3 bays. Yes, maybe you could get by with 2 bays, short term. Long term, I think you'll be much better served with what you've got. It is a sprinkled building, it's required, it has fire alarm, it has landscaping, it's in the city. All of those things have made it come out to a number. We need another 750 to 800. Now, as you recall, we have a grant of about 400,000 already, of 400,000. And I don't know if we can get any more money from them or not, but I think that's something we could consider. I think they would be receptive to listening to that request, but before we can move forward in a timely way, we really need to know if we're going to do this or not. And
Have you thought about rebidding this?
I thought about it. I don't, with those bids that close together, I don't think it's going to be much reasonable expectation that you're going to change those numbers very much. They're just so tight, which indicates that they've all bid it pretty close. So we could refuse bids and start all over, but that would take us 2 to 3 more months, and I don't know. I don't really think there's any reasonable expectation that we're going to save that much money in that process.
How many bidders did you have?
Three bidders.
Understood you had 3.
3.
Yeah.
On page 16, it looks like if we don't move money, we're going to be cutting it close in year 4. We'd only have about 302,000 above our 65% requirement. If we move 1.7 million, how does that, presumably in year 4 would be,
19, go to page 19.
we'd be under in year 4 and in some other years.
You end up being 3 years down the road with an issue.
If her growth is only 0.5%.
Right.
Or 1% with that time, I think.
1%.
1% is pretty low. I mean, not from a raise in the tax rate, but a raise from property values and things, growth and things as that.
Well, that's what he was saying.
Yeah.
We typically were having 3 and 4.
3 and 4 easily, but
Easy.
Surely things are already starting to pick up some, you know, and as they continue to grow, then a lot of
It
people
has
are afraid of inflation
That's
kicking
why,
in that.
that's why I wanted you to understand what was behind the numbers, that if that comes in better, then we're better in the fund.
They're not.
yeah.
Well, we adjust the rates yearly, so we could do this for this year,
And
and
you
of
always
course,
change
we'll
it
look at
back.
it again next year and adjust accordingly, as long as we're staying within our same total tax rate, moving a couple of pennies here and there, I don't have a problem with. Now, if we went through the public hearing and all of a sudden decided to put a few cents on the tax rate, I'd have a pretty bad,
You'd be upset with me,
I'd have
wouldn't
trouble
you?
with that, yeah. But we can, I don't necessarily have a problem moving a few cents, you know, but then we'll have to see every year as situations change, you can move
We can move them back.
2 or 3 pennies left or right or whatever, you know.
Well, I personally don't like moving it out of debt service. I mean, that's one thing we do, you know, yes, we've had to raise taxes at times, and we've done that when we had money coming in, and now in these lean years, we're using what we'd had stored up and bringing it down, which makes good common sense to me. It just bothers me taking away, I mean, that's why that 15% was put in there, you know, and the rules we put in on the monies that we get on the houses that are being built. So we pay down this debt service, so our grandchildren, we're not incurring debt like some people think. You know, if we stopped right now, what's 20 years from now, we don't owe nothing. And, you know, the quicker we can pay it off, I like that. I don't like having a lot of debt above us.
I agree, I agree.
So this concerns me quite a bit. I understand the need to bring it in there, and there's other things we hadn't talked about that could happen to us too. You know, the grants from the sheriff's department, for instance, that would suck up that
every
that would
bit you
suck up
had.
that 400,000 period if all 10 came through and we decided to go there, which, you know, I don't think that's really a possibility. But, you know.
Well, the other thing is that you've had the sheriff come in and discuss the change of the cars, whatever cars they don't have anymore.
Exactly, and they need to purchase
And they would
more.
like to use whatever that they don't spend this year, next year. And I don't know how much that will be. Of course,
Which-
that'll be your ultimate decision on how much you would want to take out of fund balance for that.
Well, my point being, I can see moving this because of needs that are there, but I don't know that this is the need we need to move it for. You
We-
know, I understand we're needing a facility.
I'll have a couple
Yeah.
options for you.
I'm listening,
Okay.
so.
All right, so that was if you move 3 cents. All right.
Back to that before you move off of it. I don't see if that's no bad move myself. Where you got it laid out. And we definitely gonna need the building.
Well, let me give you some options. I'll give you,
Which-
And our debt payments are scheduled
They're
and locked
scheduled.
in stone, so if
Right.
we drop an extra X number of dollars in debt service, that doesn't pay us out of debt any sooner. We've already called all the high interest things we can, we've refinanced, done all stuff to get our rates down as low as possible, but we're just putting money in a debt service account that we can't pay off any debt any sooner with it.
Let's see what the other option is.
Okay.
Yeah, we've already saved almost $5 million this year, just by
oh, no, it
refunding.
was over 9.
Was it 9?
Over 9
Maybe
between
5
those
on
two.
1 and 4 now.
Yes. Okay,
When
so,
you get off that building, didn't you say, when you were saying a while ago, if we work this out and get the funds for this, you talking Christie Houston, there's a possibility they could come back with some funds if they say we're gonna put some, I ain't saying they are, but I mean, they definitely ain't if we don't.
Yeah, they're in, we can ask them if they will consider that.
you have the potential sale of that other property.
That's another thing, you know, through this whole course, we own a piece of property that we didn't have before. We paid off the debt, owned a piece of property at West College that the rescue squad was in. But you know full well, we probably couldn't get what we paid off the debt on. It was $250,000, but that money would be available at some point in the future for you to put back toward capital somewhere else.
Sounds like a good place to put a fire department to me.
Okay. If you look at page 21, this is, I've got little stars where you would move 3 cents from debt service. That increases $1,739,000. And then dropping down, I'm showing the increase to the trustees commission. I'm on page 21. Increase trustees commission $34,782, and a transfer to capital projects for the fire of $800,000. On the transfer from restricted fund balance, that did have 150. It now has 375, with 150 being for the litigation tax to fund the building improvements at the jail, and then 225,000 in capital. From the capital reserve for capital projects, 225. That then takes our change to unassigned fund balance of 2.7 million. Ultimately gives us a 16.9% in our estimated fund balance. That gives you about $1.3 million cushion between the estimated unassigned and in your requirement. That's Plan A. And 22 is just showing you, what the fund balance restricted for capital development tax would be. Just to go over this, and we do need to talk about this, estimating the balance at $2,962,000, estimating revenue at $500,000. We would say that we are using the revenue that we got that year to fund the GIS flyover and sheriff's vehicles, $250,000 apiece, and then draw down that reserve for $225,000 for the fire district, fire department.
You talking about buying that many vehicles for the sheriff at once?
There's no, this is for like next year, his estimate, I think we've got $500,000 in the budget next year for vehicles for the sheriff's department. We would just use $250 of the development tax to fund those cars.
To fund those cars. We've done that heretofore every year.
Almost every year.
The vehicles, the cars, we usually fund those out of this development tax fund, this fund here. And she's just suggesting that this year we would fund 250 out of this tax.
How many, what we found on vehicles last year?
Oh, I think it was $500,000.
Good.
Let me see what we had.
It's pretty close to that every year.
It was
It's,
more than the 250, I believe. It was 20-something vehicles, I'm not sure.
This is less than we were last year.
Of course, they're planning on spending out of this year's ending fund balance as much as they can.
Let's see.
The rate of miles they're putting on a car.
Okay, our amended,
They're wearing them out faster than we're replacing them.
yeah. Our amended budget for this fiscal year is $463,600, and we've got the estimate for next year at $500,000.
On your estimated revenues on this page 22 that you're talking about, what percent did you use on that? You were talking 0.1 before, or 1% on the revenues back here. What are you using on this?
On this one,
Scenario,
I'm just
yeah.
estimating that,
$1
you know,
million.
$1 million that we'll get from development tax next year.
All right.
And it's half of it
Half,
right here.
yeah, half here and half into debt service.
What, to answer a question you had about the sheriff's department cars, he's wanting to purchase more this coming year because it's the end of the year where he can no longer buy that same model car. And then he's saying that the next year he won't be
Those current
buying
dates.
cars because he doesn't wanna buy a new model that's just come out the first year it comes out. So he's trying to get money together to purchase more of the models that are existing before they go out of that, making that same model.
And their equipment won't work on the new cars. A lot of the equipment, they move from car to car.
That's why we're seeing a little bit more on the cars this time, so.
Okay, option B is on page 23. And this is only moving 2 cents out of debt service, which would give you revenue $1,159,395. Still that transfer of $800,000 for capital projects, but the other change is a $450,000 out of development tax to give us, you know, toward that building.
Would
Taking
you
the-
have 800 on the other one?
Well, 800 is the amount to go out to capital projects fund. It's just on where we're getting revenue. On page 23, we're
Yeah,
kind
you
of
did.
dipping a little bit into fund balance and more into the development tax to fund it.
Yeah, she had 225 there previously. This time she's got 450.
Okay.
And this gives us a fund balance of 16.5%, gives you about $1,070,000 in flexibility.
300,000 less, basically, from the one before.
From the previous one. And you've drawn down your development tax fund, you've drawn it down $200,000 more, $225,000.
Yeah.
So its ending fund projected balance is 2.5 million instead of 2.7. So we've sort of split the middle there.
There's no requirement of cash that you have to keep in the development tax fund, though.
It just
That's
is what it
correct.
is.
No, but part of it has to go to debt service, there's a percentage there.
But this is only accounting for the part that comes in, that can be used for capital.
Already-
Because that other half is
She's
already.
already put it over there.
Well, I just wanted to make sure he
Yeah.
knew that.
Yeah.
So.
Mhm.
So there's my options.
So you could even take more out of the development tax if you chose to. She just sort of balanced it there to make it more reasonable for both of them. Still giving you 16.5% on your general fund balance.
And what's the difference again in the plan on page 21, which I think we were calling Plan A?
Yeah.
And the plan before that, which was the plan before that taking it all out
No,
of
That
debt
is the
service?
plan before.
This is the first plan.
Okay,
What I
yeah,
was
got it.
showing you before, what I showed you before is on the general fund, just where we were at that moment in time
Okay.
with those changes that y'all had just approved.
If we stay where we're at the 400,000, basically, and don't move anything, steadfast under our budget where we've got planned. Basically, the only thing it really jeopardizes is this building that we're wanting to build.
No, see, to me, even outstanding of the building, to me, we're too close.
$400,000, we went $1.1 million above projections, wasn't that the number?
We
Yeah,
used
there's
$1.1 million.
Everything from judgments to,
To the Florence Road.
I understand.
Utilities,
I understand,
everything.
but you look at the Florence Road and Judgments, I mean, those are half of it right there.
what was the year before?
It's usually, y'all end up going another million over whatever we voted, we go
Another
another
million.
million.
And we've got 400,000. So last year wasn't a unique year. There's always something.
But what I'm saying is if we adjust as we go along.
Once we put it in
When-
debt service, it's over there.
I mean, I would counter that if, at the end of next year, if you didn't need it, you could always adjust the pennies back.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying tighten the belt, if you can tighten it. I think, not that we're not tightening it, we are.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, when we.
But I'm just saying, as they come along, you almost separate the needs and the wants, and how bad do you need it, or how bad you want it, you know, I mean, that's the bottom line.
No, we started.
There's a fight for everything that we do, and I don't know if I'll say a fight, but a good explanation for things that we need to do across the board.
Yeah,
There's no doubt
the
about
finance
that.
director and I had that discussion today on page 12. When you look at how many times we went to that unassigned fund balance, and we just tried to play with those requests and think, what is it that we could have actually said no to? And when you look at it, it was really difficult to say no, and that helps you understand why we voted to use those dollars for those things. If you look at that list, what are you going to say that we're not going to do?
Well, there's some things on there. There's about $700,000 on there that I don't expect it would come back, like Florence Road, you know.
Yes.
Yeah,
almost
you're
250.
right. That-
You've got the unemployment compensation,
That's
which that
true.
should slow
Yeah.
down because, you know,
Yeah.
we don't have turnover, again, and then the judgments down there are tied
Yeah.
into some of that.
But at the time, what did we say?
Well, we didn't have any
We
choice.
had
Sure.
no choice. We had to do
Sure.
it, exactly.
But what I'm saying is, hopefully that would come down. I mean, I can see 700,000 there that, you know, I don't see those, well, they won't be.
There's a couple
Those
big
won't
ones
be.
in there.
Well, that's what you said, we usually run around $1 million, so every year is its own year, and there's different stuff that comes up.
Circumstances.
We've still got some lawsuits out there going on that we're gonna probably write some big checks for and things like that, you know, for legal fees and stuff.
You still have utilities, who knows what's gonna happen with TVA.
Hopefully, I
Yeah,
mean,
looking at these, I couldn't
it's not
find
like
any
we're
that
giving
change.
money away, we're just moving it from here to
Exactly.
here. It's just bookkeeping's all it
Right,
is.
right.
But
And
this is
and it gives her the flexibility to be able to pay the bills. I mean, I
Job
believe we ought to look at every
flexibility for things
expense hard when it comes in, and say if somebody wants, they had positions during the year and all, then probably not, you know, but at least we have got the ability to pay the utilities and the judgments, the things, the unfunded mandates and things that are pushed down our throats.
But when you see a list like this alerts us immediately that when we see those budget amendments coming in with that 39000 line item there, you realize how many times we've gone back to that and
Well-
used it.
Well, let me ask you, the one that pops up here, has the legislation changed on this mental health evaluation and treatment, so we don't
It
get hit with that?
hasn't changed, but I think people are more aware of it.
$100,000 has made me aware, I'm telling you,
Yeah.
or 97,000.
Yeah, it was one person that created that major conflict for us.
So our legislators haven't taken care of that loophole for us.
Nothing has changed,
It's just,
except our judges are more on top of this, and we're going to review this on an ongoing basis one
But there
day.
could be another thing that's similar come down to happening right now. We don't know about this, not mental evaluation, but we may have a liability out there we're not even aware of. Not something we're gonna get up, because I didn't realize they had changed the law and made it our responsibility, you know, and it took the maximum number of days out, at the same time they took it off their bill, which was
well,
wrong.
for me, on the year it changed, we had no history, And then another year went by and we had no expenses. It was then the next year that the bills began to come.
But when when they took it off the state's tab, before it had a maximum number of days.
Yes.
And they took it off their tab and at the same time, took off maximum number of days. How wrong is that? Not only have they done us with it, but they made it unlimited. Legislators ought to talk, explain that to us, in my opinion.
We will need a motion at some point in time if we agree with the finance director's proposals as to do we want to transfer 2 cents or 3 cents from the debt service to give more flexibility to the general
Plan
fund?
A right there, she presented.
Second.
Plan A is the 3 cents.
Lisa,
Sir.
is Plan A your preference?
I tell you, to me, I mean, I'm comfortable with either one. I mean, Plan A, it gives you flexibility and takes care of that, and you're not using,
And I understand, what I'm having trouble with
comfortable
is
with
where we're gonna spend the money at. And I can wait until we cross that bridge as it comes to us, I guess, but, you know, that's what's frustrating to me.
We still get to vote on every time we go on that account.
And we do, yeah.
exactly. And there, you know, and I'm bringing this, we still have a lot of unknowns at this moment in time. You know, I've got an estimate of 15.2, you know, I pray it comes in better. I'd rather y'all get mad at me because I might have undershot it, but I'm just, even now, I'm hoping we'll come in at 15.2. The other thing is, what will we ultimately borrow? You know, I'm using 50, what will we do? Now, the bids will come in June 30th. When will you award?
I think they will try to have a meeting early July. But
Then we've got to come back and talk about Eagleville and.
Then you have to talk
football
about those
field
other
and
things,
Exactly.
those
like
things,
that.
so
And when you
you may
remember
choose.
these conditions, when we're talking about what levels of borrowing we're going with.
And at that point in time, we'll have closed the books, we'll come back with better numbers, this is where we are now.
Is page 19 based on borrowing 1.7 million from the debt service fund, and Plan B is to borrow 2/3 that amount? To transfer 2/3 of that amount from the
Okay.
debt service?
Plan, okay,
3 cents.
on page 16 is just how it is now. And page 19 is what it would look like if we did 3 cents, if we moved the 3 cents over.
That's Plan A.
Yes.
I don't have Plan B. I don't have a Plan B,
Okay.
it's just to add $575,000 in revenue to each line.
Well, on page 19,
And not change the 3 pennies ever, I mean, in other words, you can change it the very next year back to whatever you choose to.
Right, this just, on page 20, it assumes 59.62 pennies forever.
Okay. But that way we know we begin to get into trouble in 3 years.
Yeah.
And then you see what the
Something
growth
would have to
factor
change.
is.
Inflation.
You've got the assumptions for the growth factor, if that comes in better,
It would change those numbers as well. So the growth factor and whether you change the 3 pennies back, give one of them or 2 of them back if you need to or whatever, if the general fund does better. So you have all of those components working together.
so
Right.
page 19, that's Plan A. And at that third year, we're gonna be 3.8 million below.
with those assumptions.
And at that time, assuming that the revenues don't change, what would we have to do? Put 3 cents or, well, it'd be more than that back. What would we have to put back?
It's like about 7 cents.
Yeah.
We're spending fund balance, that can't go on forever.
And that's your growth changes.
That can't go on forever in the general fund either. You know, we're estimating, what, a drawdown, let's see what that, what's that, 3
She
cents?
had more typical growth factors, and I had her change these to more numbers that reflect current numbers. She's used 3% and 4% forever, previous to all these discussions this year. And I didn't let her keep them up there.
But if we
Well,
take,
that's correct there on growth factor in this coming
Well,
year.
right now,
I mean,
it's
that's
changed
right.
so much.
But you've got a couple of major companies that are gonna be pulling at the end of 12, toward their latter end of 12, I guess. You know, like the battery plant and some other things,
That's
and
under
Pillsbury
pilot,
stuff.
though.
So that's gonna help us.
It's under a pilot agreement. That should be some additional revenue.
Well, I'm just talking about people coming in and buying homes and everything
Yeah.
else
Hopefully.
and settling here, you know, so.
They're coming
Going
in
to
right
school here
now.
too. But they've been coming in here though, Yeah.
even though everything's been down. But basically, if we take the 3 cents from that and put it into the general fund, still, we gotta make the decision if we're gonna spend it or not out there, right? And we can go back on the fire department, if that's deemed the most important, is see where we can cut it to as austere, as functional as we can get it down to, let's put it that way, that we can do that. And I'd like to just throw something out, is that Murfreesboro's having that, had that fire department sitting out there on Veterans Parkway, almost at Salem
Maybe
Highway.
we can lease that from the city,
Yeah.
it's sitting out there.
Alright.
At least maybe we could offer to cut the grass for them if we could
Your
use
lease-
it, right?
Your lease payment on that would be about as much as you could pay your
Oh,
own
I
debt
mean,
service and
yeah.
own your building over 20 years. I think we'd like to own that building when we get at the last stop.
And the land on West College is not functional for a fire department, it's
Not-
because it's
not
too much in
long-term.
the city.
Yeah, not in the right location, and it's dated to say the least.
What are there, 4 bays there?
I don't think so.
Three
It's
for
2
sure.
bays.
For 3 cents.
I think
Yes.
more than that.
What?
It's been a long time since I've been over
There's
there,
only
though.
2 places to back a vehicle in. I believe
Oh,
you might
wait.
be right, though, Robert. I've been down there
I
on.
know one on
West-
Veterans. It's
No,
on
he's talking
Pancake
about
breakfast, that was-
West
that was
College.
said that
Oh,
building's been there a while.
It's been a long
It's-
time since I've
it's-
been in that building.
It's old and
You wanna do what you do.
Gentlemen, we do have a motion from Commissioner Jernigan, seconded by Commissioner Jordan, to move 3 cents from the debt service to the general fund
And using 225,000
from,
the capital.
for capital. I do want
All
to
those pieces
emphasize for
down
those
there.
people who might be listening and hearing us talking about moving pennies, and when we talk about pennies, people start thinking about the property tax rate. We are not changing the property tax rate. We are staying at our current property tax rate of 2.4652. That's what we've worked through this entire budget process. So, and we are still not recommending a property tax increase for this 2011-2012 budget year.
To me, we're doing something just as hard though, where we're biting the bullet here and taking 3 pennies out of the general fund that could come
Not-
back.
Not out-
I mean, out of debt service, that could come back and hurt us later if we're not careful. I mean, we're,
I see a hurt in either fund,
right,
Either way.
either way.
but we're not drawing the line in the sand and saying, hey, we need 3 cents from the property tax folks, us, you know, and everybody out there. We're saying, let's move it from here and adjust and see if we can't make it work. And if something doesn't happen, then we have to come back to property tax folks later, but this is trying to do something without that.
One other question, if we decided not to do this, sometime in the budget year coming forward, if we saw a need to do that, could we not transfer money then? Say, this penny that we're
Could we
talking
do
about.
this in the,
You can't move from debt service into the general fund.
That's what I'm
You
asking, if
can't
we
do
can
it
do
that
it,
way.
well, we're doing it now, but because it's for
In
the
essence,
full year.
in essence, you're.
But we can't do
You're
that.
You're just
Yeah, we set
adjusting,
the
you're adjusting
tax
what
levy
goes
at
in.
the-
Yeah.
Once it goes in, it's
It
in
needs
those
to stay
individual
there.
buckets,
Right.
and we can only use what they're supposed to pay for.
Well, what I was getting at is would change how much we would owe if we could take it only as we needed it, instead of taking the whole, say, 3 cents now. That's why I was asking if we could do that. No.
No.
Okay. That's-
The only reason we can do it now is because we're just getting ready to put the money in.
Right.
Right.
This is sort of an opportunity for now that won't occur again.
right.
Till next year.
Until next year,
Well-
when you adjust that.
We can do it until we set the tax levy, right?
And that's what you're doing. That's what we're getting ready to do, is set the
That's
levy.
right.
July 1
In
would be
fact,
in
that's
this.
on page 26.
Right. And that's what you'll be coming back, that's what we'll be coming back with you
Wednesday.
on Wednesday, is the resolution to set the levy.
So technically, we could lose sleep over the next 2 nights then, all right?
Mayor Rogers, did you
She
want
needs to be able to get
comment?
all the paperwork
Yeah.
sorted out.
Okay.
The only other reason on this general fund that we don't want that to get down so close to 15%, we want a little margin of error on these rating agencies to see us that we've got enough flexibility to know that we're gonna be able to maintain that policy.
I can, personally, I guess, I can live with the transfer of the 3 cents, but why do we have to do from capital projects now? It can be done anytime. It can be moved to the, for the project, right? Isn't that the reason we're using the 225,000 for a specific project?
No, you're still dedicated.
You're dedicating that 225 for this project, and then, in essence, you'll be using property tax to fund the balance of it.
Well, wait a minute, we're not designating money for a project right now. It's my understanding, you were saying there's a possible need up there, so you're making money available, but we're not designating this money for a particular project, or that was my understanding.
No,
No,
I'm saying
mine is
that
on 8.
that's what this transfer to capital projects for fire, that 800 is a line, an appropriation for that purpose.
How much,
Oh.
how much money is Christie Houston donated this, son?
400.
Well, that's 400,000 Christie Houston donated, so we don't move forward, they say, hey, give us our 400 back.
And the mayor's gonna go back to them and see if he can get some more.
I think we ought to be ready.
Yes,
Can't go home.
definitely.
The other offset is if fund balance comes in better, if it comes in better, then you might say,
We can transfer
we can
that
go
back.
back and say, we don't want to designate the 225 out of the capital, just use the ending fund balance. You can come back later, and say that.
We'll go no then.
Do we need to break this up between the 3 cents and the fire and rescue building, because they're jumbled together right now?
They are together.
Yeah, I know, but regardless of what happens with the fire and rescue building, we need the 3 cents over there to get through the next year.
Well, that was my,
Do we not?
that's why I was
You know,
asking the
3 cents,
question,
if you did-
but I'm not
if you
ready to
didn't-
designate it. to
Yeah,
a
because
particular
I think there
area.
are people on, I may be speaking out of turn, that are ready to vote for the 3 cents, but are not ready to jump into the fire and rescue building.
Exactly.
And
Okay.
so I wanna make sure our budget is solid
Right.
first
Okay.
myself, so I'd like to see that 3 cents, then we can back up
Okay.
and argue about the fire and rescue building.
Y'all, what's the motion on the floor? Because we need to make very sure we're clear on that.
The motion is to transfer 3 cents from the debt service fund to the general fund and 225,000 from the development tax for capital. Would be the
I
final
thought I
motion.
was seconding the 3 cents.
I
Okay,
think we're a little
okay.
quick on
I
it.
think
Okay.
that was kind of added on,
Okay.
that part, after the motion was made, actually.
Which doing the 3 cents, adding the 3 cents would then on top, the revenue would be 70
Gentlemen,
million.
page
for-
21.
Yeah.
You know, just addressing the revenue. Would be 70,401,795.
That's my number one concern, is making sure our budget is
Yeah.
sound for the next 12 months, and we have some money there for emergencies and unknowns.
Okay.
Not saying I won't support the fire and rescue building, but that's a second discussion, in my opinion.
Okay.
So are y'all redoing that motion there,
I didn't,
just for the 3 cents? Are you backing up on your second?
Okay, shall we clarify it? Commissioner Jernigan, you made the motion. What we need clarification on, did you intend for your motion just to be for transferring the 3 cents from debt service to the general fund and not addressing the 225?
Fine with what her, plan was right there. And she went through it.
Which was what we called Plan A originally, which is on page 21.
Page 21.
Yes.
And that whole plan
Isn't
was
that-
move
is not
3
what you thought
cents.
was your second?
I'll support that, but I've got a feeling that won't pass.
We can give it a try.
May or may not.
Okay, so the plan was to
Okay.
move 3 cents, 800,000 for, project and use 225 in capital, the reserve for capital.
And
My
150,000.
concern.
And,
150 for
and you also
litigation.
see there was 150 for the litigation for the jail improvement.
Yes.
I mean, all of it was the same, was in there together. My concern is there,
I understand.
someone clear me up the line. Well, we went out and asked,
Plus the 225.
like Christie Houston for money, and they come up here with 400,000. Now, all of a sudden, you say, no, we didn't give it to us because we wasn't gonna do it.
Well, I think we got two different things here on the table that, I mean, they didn't award the bid, right?
No, we don't award the bid until it's funded.
You
Right.
gotta get the money.
So that, I
for you
mean,
to
that,
do
I
it.
think we're lumping this in here.
But the bid is out and is hanging.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
There. So either we do come with funding or we start from scratch, start over.
Or do nothing.
This don't, it's in that if you approve this, but that don't mean you're gonna take that bid. They may wanna go back and rebid it. I'm not
Well, that's
saying
what
that.
it's,
No,
Is this body gonna get another chance to look
it's
at,
putting the money
discuss that
together
bid?
for the fire
I
department.
know
Well,
it's
the
put it
purchasing committee
together, but
hadn't-
you don't mean you have to take
We
it
can't do
bid.
anything until the money's there, approved by the commission.
Well, if we did that and the purchasing committee accepted the bids, we'd be, I mean, the money's spent.
Yep, that's right. If you move this 800,000 for capital for the fire building, yes, it will be approved.
I think we're all do it, but I think there'll be more discussion out there. I mean, we had said a $500,000 building, all of a sudden it's a $1.2 million building.
Three
That's-
years later.
Yeah.
But,
Well,
yeah,
I mean, in reality, I figured it would be a couple 100,000, 300,000 over. I mean, I figured it would come in about 800, 7 something, you know, but not 1.2. So,
two and a
I mean,
half times the original.
yeah.
estimate.
Well, what
And so
bothers me about
I'm not personally ready, I mean, to jump in there. I wanna look and see if there's any other options, and you probably already know what they are, and there may not be any, but
If
I just.
had any, you'd know about them right this moment. I don't have any.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I agree with you there. I'm just,
What bothers me with the bids coming in that high with as slow as construction is in this area. I mean, it just surprises me. Maybe that 3 years is a long time, I understand that, but
Well,
that's what's bothering, sticker price is what's bothering me.
Well, you can
I'm
take
with
it
that.
back. To be honest with you, the $500,000 was an arbitrary and capricious number. That was my number, just pulled out of the air, not even knowing what size building we really needed.
It didn't come
Just
from an
to-
architect or anything.
Didn't
like
come
that.
from anybody except me, and I'd take full
just to
responsibility.
get it started, yeah.
Just to get it
Well, our
started.
ambulance stations are running what, again?
Well, you said 180,
I
but we
was
don't know,
thinking it was
200 or
180,
something, I'm not sure.
200,000 for that
Well, even
last
if you
one.
did
That's
three,
on the
that's
front.
600,000, so you weren't that far off on
Yeah.
your estimates there,
those
in my
are-
opinion.
it's a good
But we're
number.
talking about a structure that's completely different, the ceiling heights and all of that, and the stuff you have to exhaust those fumes out of that building, and
Same thing you'd have to have the exhaust in ambulance.
but no, we're not putting in those systems in those ambulance buildings you're talking about, not at all.
I don't know any that are any of the volunteer fire departments that
agree
have
with
them
you,
either.
It's code required in that type of structure now.
Okay. Well, we can vote this up or down or any way we wanna go, but if this is committed, which it is now, I'm not gonna vote for it. You know, if we have a discussion and I may change my mind and come back and vote to fund this, but I'm not ready to take 3 cents out of there and spend $1.25 million just for one building here, when I've got other needs I see coming.
Well, shall we just try the vote and see what happens?
Okay.
All right, would you repeat the motion as stated? And of course, if you want to see the documentation, that's page 21.
Plan A, 3 cents from the debt service fund to the general fund, with $150,000 from the litigation tax, $225,000 from the development tax, with $800,000 going into the transfers to capital projects for the fire.
Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum,
No.
Commissioner Jernigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
No.
Commissioner P,
No.
Commissioner Sandlin,
No.
Commissioner Shaper,
No.
Commissioner Ely.
No. Motion fails.
I'll make another motion to move the 3 cents from debt service to general fund to shore up our budget for next year
Second that.
alone,
Okay.
not including any of the other.
Okay. This is strictly to move 3 cents from debt service to general fund, and seconded by Commissioner Schaefer. Discussion relative to this motion.
If we make these funds available, what is to prevent the purchasing committee to go ahead and award them the bids?
Because you're
This-
not gonna put the money
We're not
in
putting it over
for
there yet.
the transfer.
All right.
This is just separating those two issues in my opinion.
All right.
Any further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum,
Yes.
Commissioner Jernigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Sandlin,
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer,
Yes.
Commissioner Ely.
Yes. Commissioner
Question-
Schaefer?
Question on the litigation tax.
That needs to,
Is it in there already, or
yes,
we were
it's
gonna
in
put
there.
it in there?
The 150 all along that we've talked about is that we would draw 150 down for the litigation tax for the building improvements that we're doing at the jail.
So by itself, we don't have to do anything with that?
I think it's good that we do talk about it and that we read that in.
Mhm.
Along with that, I just wanna make sure that it's in there that, that the 500, on page 22, the 500 that we're estimating coming in from development tax will be used for, half for the GIS flyover and the other half for, sheriff's vehicles. That's more for Elaine and I to know how to handle this at the end of next year.
Do you need that in a motion, or are we secure in that right
Let's
now?
do that, if you don't mind, let's make
Would
that
you be any
definitive.
more comfortable taking all of the money out of the development tax, or are you just not comfortable spending $1 million out of general fund for a building?
That's my problem.
Yeah.
is spending
For the-
money
We
for the
we
building.
spend no money out of the general fund for structures and buildings. We built one clerk's building, and we're borrowing $25 to $50 million a year on schools. And I just think it's an investment we really need to seriously consider.
We've got discussion. I mean, is this?
Yeah, that's true, we got
I mean, we
discussed.
just spent, that's all we've spent in 5 years, except what you already had underway when I got here, the work center and the juvenile detention. I understand that piece of it, but we just hadn't spent any money. I mean, we've been very, very frugal, you have.
Florence Road, we didn't spend that.
We
I
did
got
spend
a, I got a
yeah.
list here.
Yeah, we spent Florence Road.
It's,
I read you, that was a
$1.1
commitment that was
$1 million.
ongoing.
Yeah.
And we did do Halls Hill Pike, yes,
Yeah.
we did do that one. And we're gonna have to do Joe B. Jackson, but,
Well, what is, I'm at a loss here. These bids came in 2.5 times close to projection. I know, bad projection.
There was no projection,
But-
that was just,
but-
it was just no projection, that's the problem, I'm
I mean,
sorry,
for
I
that,
apologize for
not
that.
to go back through committee, but just hit us here in the middle of
Do we
redoing
tell
the
them what you
budget.
have to see how they
I'd like to see
came in?
more sets of eyes see this. I'd like to know if property management or public safety or, and we might not have that amount of time. We're heading into July and the bids have already been open. They're only good for X number of days, but, I mean, 4 of us tonight could approve that building, and that's a significant change for 4 of us to
Ask
make.
Dollar General over there, when they built one, had to go by number plus specs, how much more it cost them
Yeah.
to build it than it did over yonder on Woodbury Road. So
I'm
it's
not
a
saying-
difference You build it in the city instead of county.
I'm not saying we shouldn't be talking about this and moving forward in some direction,
You
but
wanna know where the difference was, well, it's a difference, you building it in the city, there's more requirements than it is in the county. Simple.
Okay.
You wanna find a piece of
Well,
property in
what is
county,
the
build it
option on
out
the
in
fire and
county,
rescue that
you
was
might
mentioned a
do
while
that.
ago, the old rescue building? What is that?
We're talking about maybe selling that at some point, we've got $250,000 in it, and that would be capital that would come back for other capital purposes.
And it
We've
would-
spent $250,000 this year out of our budget to make all this happen, and we're holding that in inventory.
I mean, it wouldn't be appropriate to have the fire station there.
Not really. It's not located. It needs to be where we picked. Everybody says that's the right place for it.
we could, put in the bond issuance.
I'd rather take it out of the development tax than to borrow money on
Pay
it.
for it over 20 years or pay for it all now, I mean, that's the
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah.
The money sitting in that development tax is not earning any money.
Well, we've got a projected ending fund balance of 2.9 million. No, at the bottom, about 2.1, 2.
Well, no,
No.
that 2.5 is off the table now since you did, it's.
I was looking at that top number up there.
2.9.
Yeah, 2.9,
2.9.
that's correct, yes.
Why couldn't you take it out of the development tax?
We certainly could.
And we've still got the opportunity to go back to Christie Houston and ask for
Yes,
some amount of money.
correct.
It's a capital improvement. That is okay out of,
I mean, Mike, they gonna wanna say whether they give you any more money if you don't know whether you ain't gonna build one or not.
No, we'll just-
400,000.
if I'd rather take it out of development tax, down the general fund.
And we have 500 dedicated now, is that all we have dedicated to
Well,
it,
that's-
right?
Just saying the revenue that we come
That's
in,
new
that's how we're
revenue
gonna.
coming in that we were gonna spend. We're not
Right.
using any of the current money for new projects.
However,
Now, did you
Is
mean
that five-
dedicated to the project or dedicated to development fund?
500 dedicated to the project
See,
right
he's
now.
talking.
He
So
said
we-
it's two projects.
We've got,
Only because we have a commitment on 400,000.
Right.
And we have a little under 100,000 that we had committed that did, since we spent more when we acquired these other properties, we don't really have but about $58,000 there.
Okay.
So you need at least about 750 to make it whole.
Well, how do you feel about it, Robert, if they take it out of development tax?
I need to digest the sticker price on it. I told you that's what it is all along. I just feel like it's too much for the building.
can we make this decision Thursday night? I mean, Wednesday night
Wednesday
when we're
night.
back here again? Because if we don't do something, we're leaving $400,000 on the table.
Well,
That's Christie Houston's offered to put, we don't
Yeah.
get that.
It's off the table. I don't know, can we do it Wednesday? I mean, if we move the 3 cents, that'll,
that
that's already
takes care of
done.
revenue, it's just on the appropriation.
on the appropriation out of the development tax or otherwise.
Well, just setting the appropriation resolution.
The building costs 1.2 and Christie Houston's paying a third of it.
Already.
I hate to let that get away.
Well, you can talk with the low bidder again, can't you? See if you can work something out?
Well, no,
I
that's,
can.
that's sealed bids that
No,
they've
you
sent
can
in.
No,
always
they
negotiate
were-
with the
Oh,
low
really?
bidder.
Okay.
Not gonna give them to 500,000.
No, but you can get
Who was
maybe
low
something.
bidder?
They got.
Ms.
Oh,
Ms.
here-
Ely has it right here, let's see.
200,000 in contingencies.
The low bidder is, right now, is Dyer and Boger Construction out of Hendersonville. I believe they built that clerk's building
They did.
in Smyrna.
Were we happy with their work and everything?
Yes, they did a good job.
Well, in my opinion, if they wanna build this, they need to lower their price.
What's that bringing down per foot then?
It's about $140 a foot, that building is.
Wow.
Part of that's just
Wow.
basically a shell for the parking for the
Yeah.
bays. I mean, that's, but they have got some
You know, it's
ventilation issues,
pavement,
things like that.
ventilation, retaining wall, I mean, stuff, it's,
It's a lot to it.
it is. Sprinkler
Keep it.
system, building, the whole thing.
And you gotta have all kind of landscape in those, cause it's
Yes,
in the
there is
city,
got
don't you?
landscape. Yes, we do.
Connection fee to the sewer,
Yeah.
probably.
No, it hasn't, it's not on the sewer.
Even if
Can
we
we-
decided to use all development tax funds, you still would recommend taking three
Well-
pennies from the debt service
Yeah.
to move it into,
Yeah, we've already.
I mean, we've already approved that.
Yeah.
I'm wondering
Yeah.
if we were to pay, if we were to use all development tax money, would you still have recommended that we move money out of our debt service account?
I feel more comfortable going to the rating agencies with a healthier fund balance, not using as much.
Moody's
That's
looks
where
at,
I-
they're gonna
that's
look at
where I
the margin in our general fund. You think they'll look at where we got the extra money from?
No, no.
Just saying.
I mean, they'll look at,
It is.
they will look at, what our they look at the general fund and they look at debt service fund. They look at those two. And when I can say we meet or exceed what our policy is in both funds. The last comments that they said to us, you know, our policy was 15. Their counter, well, other people with your rating typically have 18%.
And the margin in debt service is large enough that it's not an issue.
Right. That their response would be, I see you're using your fund balance in the general fund, in the debt service. What is your plan?
Well, when
I
we-
show them the plan.
When we made that policy, we looked at other counties with better ratings. I think we looked at Williamson, which had a better rating than us, and that's what their policy was. And there was one other county that we looked at, or maybe a municipality.
Well, I was speaking to the mayor, I think it's Brentwood has 100% in their debt service fund.
They don't have much debt.
They don't have much debt. They're a triple A rated
Is there a
community.
Brentwood city school system?
No.
I didn't think there was.
But wait a minute, there is a Franklin Special School District.
But that's not Brentwood.
Yeah, but special school districts gets
They
their
get
own
their own
property
rate.
They're not
tax,
funding
so
a school
that's
system,
different.
yeah.
Mhm. It's not like
We can put a lot of money in the bank if we don't have a
schools.
school system.
Well,
Can we brew on this Wednesday night and try to think about
Well,
some
what,
alternatives, or?
She's gotta have a resolution
well,
prepared, she said.
yes, well, we'd like to have the resolution, you know, and I don't know if that you don't want a $1.2 million building, or is it, where are we gonna take the money from? You know, if the fund balance should come in better, you might come back and say, you know, that thing that we said that we were gonna use capital for, use the fund balance instead. You know, if you had a uncomfortable feeling of using the development tax, or if you come back and say, you know, I want all 800 coming out there, all 800 out of the development tax, that just gives us more flexibility in fund balance. You know that we've got, even with this scenario, 2.8, so we're still showing that we're gonna use
You won't have any
2.8 to
better
3
numbers
million.
Wednesday night
I
than you
agree.
got tonight.
I agree.
She's
We could
giving
just
you-
make a motion to use up to 800 out of the development tax, and hope that we get some more out of Christie Houston. And it's the bills come in, if fund balance looking better, we could not use the whole, we
Right.
just need a commitment so you can
Commitment up
move
to that,
forward.
yes, and let us work on the.
But right, I need the 800, I need to have an appropriation set for that transfer to
Worst
capital
case
projects.
scenario to be able to pay the bill.
And then it's really how I'm gonna present, this reduction in how much we're gonna take out of the assignment.
What's our,
And all that is kind of a separate discussion that you can tell me Wednesday, because all that's gonna change is my, statement of operations. But for Elaine to prepare the appropriation resolution, I kinda need to know whether or not you're gonna put that 800 in there or not. Or you do it into next year.
we've rented this building up to, what was that we did on that building that we're in right now? We rented it up to,
Renting that building that the old Rutherford Volunteer Fire Department's in over there.
it's rented again for another year.
But
Well,
not
it's
for a
rented-
full year.
No, we didn't put that much in the budget for the full year. We
Rent
assumed
went
that
up
we
too,
had-
didn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're paying, what it is, it's more than $17,000 a year.
30-something thousand, wasn't it? It was in there.
We had to
One of
amend the
these.
budget 17,000, I don't know how much we got, and we only got about a half a year in there this time.
Right there.
Yeah. That was
Oh, you have it.
17,000 on that,
Yeah.
but that was just a partial year there.
Yeah. Yeah, right there. I think it doubled. Went to 30,000.
But I didn't think we put a full year because we thought we could build this building.
Oh, the 15,000.
It's about a half a year. 15's what we got in there for about half a year, so it's $30,000 a year.
Yeah, yes.
And if you borrowed money, you can, for 70,000, you can pay it off in 20 years. If you actually borrowed it, but that's not borrowing it, it's not near that kind of cost. So we're gonna spend $30,000.
Brandon out there,
I'll make a motion to take it up to $800,000 out of the development tax.
Okay, so I'm gonna show 800,000 is that we're gonna use.
But hopefully it'll be less than that.
That you'll come back later and we can do something
I'm
different
not following you
after we
second on
close.
that.
And we do have a motion up to $800,000 using the development tax, and this is for the fire rescue building. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Bond seconded. Discussion?
Will this come back to either public safety or this committee before that money's spent? So we see what the actual cost is?
No, because you got a bid. It's $1.2 million, whatever.
I mean, it sounds like we don't expect bids to come in any lower. We're not even gonna be receiving additional bids.
Mm-mm.
If we don't fund this, then we lose $400,000 from Christie Houston.
Yeah.
That's right.
It sounds like this
Yeah.
is a situation that's
They
not
could
really gonna
back-
change.
They could back away from the table and rebid it to come in at $1.2 million again, and that's $1.2 million of our money instead of $800,000.
I mean, if we're gonna move ahead with the project at all, it's, to some extent, it seems like it's kinda now or never.
And if we commit to the project, then they can move forward, and the mayor can go to Christie Houston. Hopefully, we can get a little bit more from them.
Yeah.
This reminds me of the housewife that came home with the sale flyer, say, see how much money I saved you.
No, no point.
Basically, what happens if we don't build the building this year? I mean, we rent this one, we
spend
spend another
30,000 on it,
30-something
and
thousand.
we give up the 400,000.
$430,000 swing.
Well, I mean, if they've committed to it, to build, or to help us build the building, then they would probably commit to help us build the building
A little bit more maybe.
next year,
Well, they
if
might
if we
next year.
decided to do
If we
that.
decide
Depending
to
on
do it.
what other applications they have.
That's right, and if they still have
Sure.
the cash flow to do it.
Sure.
You'd probably wait to see if you're gonna commit your own money before you would next time. I would.
And with this approach, we're taking the money out of the development tax fund rather than reducing our margins in the general fund unassigned balance and
It'll
the
raise that.
unassigned fund balance for debt service. When the development tax fund is depleted, it's depleted, but this way we have a little more, things look a little better for people like Moody's.
Yes.
I mean, really, if you're
Yeah.
wanting to present your best case in front of them, you
That-
would
that
rather
is
take
the-
it out of the,
Mhm.
out of the development, take it all out of the development
You're
fund.
right.
Rather than even a portion of it out of the unassigned fund balance from the general fund, because you
Yes.
want to move closer to 18%.
Yes.
Provide some rationale for why we moved the money in the first place
Mhm.
out of debt service, even though we're gonna pay for this out of the development tax fund. Sort
Yes,
of,
you're right.
sort of creates the illusion, really, that things are in better shape than they really are.
He's good, you
That's why he teaches this stuff.
He must be a professor at MTSU is all.
What does this jump in front of that we're looking at? I mean, I'm brain dead on capital projects now. What is this jumping in front of that we've got our mindset or thinking about building anything?
Joe B. Jackson Road, and we're gonna have to fund that. and we're
That's gonna
committed.
have to be part of
That-
this borrowing. a piece of it.
We'll have to borrow money for that, but I don't know of anything else really that we have on the table.
I mean, the judicial center,
We just put that off. and
we're
we'll
so
continue to
far
put
off
that
on that, we just keep pushing that back.
Right.
You look at this list and use your
Maybe crime will
imagination.
go down and we won't.
Move way back.
Gentlemen, we do have a motion and a second on the floor. Do we need further discussion?
But we do own that property now though, right?
Where's that, sir? Oh, yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Discussion? Call the roll, please.
Commissioner Baum,
Yes,
Commissioner Jernigan,
Yes.
Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
No.
Commissioner Sandlin,
Not right now, no.
Commissioner Schaefer,
Yes.
Commissioner Ely.
Yes. Okay, 5-2, motion carries, yes. Anything else we need to do tonight? Mayor Burgess, is there anything else?
No.
Gentlemen, anything else that needs to come before this committee? Okay, we will be back here Wednesday evening at 5:30, and we do have some amendments, and Ms. Short says those are growing by the day. And then we'll also do the the resolution for our tax levy and the tax appropriation. Okay, no further business, gentlemen. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.